Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, I'm going to compare the two Disney film adaptations of 101 Dalmatians to the 1956 book by Dodie Smith. I'm going to double check that is my author here. Yes, Dodie Smith. So both adaptations stick pretty close to the original book. So there's a main story is you have this couple, they get together, they both have Dalmatians. The female Dalmatian ends up getting pregnant. She has 15 puppies. A woman by the name of Cruella de Vil, who knew Mrs. Dearly at school, shows up. She's married a furrier, is obsessed with fur, wears nothing but fur, has black and white hair. She sees the puppy. She's aware, obviously, of Mrs. Dearly's dog, and that's how she's referred to in the books. In the films, they actually give the humans the names of Roger and Anita. In the books, they're just called Mr. and Mrs. Dearly. So that's one of the first differences you find in here. The basic story, yes, she gives the female dog gives birth to 15 puppies. Cruella wants the puppies. The Dearlys say, no, we're not planning on selling the puppies. She's hired two bundly buffoons to kidnap the puppies. They're taken out to her estate out in Suffolk. The dogs use the twilight barking, basically the dogs barking at night, communicating with each other to locate their puppies. And then they leave and travel to the country in Suffolk to find their puppies. And they find, besides their 15, they find multiple other puppies. Again, this is a difference because there's another difference in the story. Now, partially in the names here. So in the Dearly household, there's actually 3 adult Dalmatians. What happens is the couple's dogs, which are the name of Pongo and Mrs., have the 15 puppies. Now, the vet tells Mrs. Dearly that Mrs. isn't going to be able to take care of all 15 puppies. So Mrs. Dearly somehow goes out and finds Perdia, who's a stray dog Dalmatian, who's recently had puppies, and she doesn't. Basically, they've been taken from her. So she's on the street. Mrs. Dearly takes her to the vet, gets her cleaned up, brings her in, as she works as a surrogate to some of the puppies. And then Pongo eventually disagrees with the vet and shows them that no, Mrs. is not going to hate her puppies or Perdia, even though the vet thinks that she will not recognize her puppies and hate Perdia because she'll think this is another dog with more puppies. So they are actually become a big family. And that's one of the first messages. They actually changed the female dog's name to Purdy. And they basically combine 2 dog characters. Pongo is the main dog. The other thing is, because you have this other female dog, she has a husband, as they're referred to. Yes, the dogs refer to themselves as husband and wife, and Mrs. and Pongo do believe they have gotten married, just like they're humans. And that changes the number of puppies they find. In the book, I believe it's 96. And yeah. And in the film, it's, I believe it's like 98. So, because again, you have this other 2 adult dogs that end up joining the family. So that's how you get the 101 Dalmatians. So without those 2, you add more puppies. So again, the stories are very similar. The parent dogs go and find, in this case, in the films, it's Pongo and Purdy. In the books, it's Pongo and Mrs. Perdia stays behind in the books to take care of the Dearlys. So they go and find on this adventure, after the twilight barking, your dogs are here. They call it Old DeVille Palace in the films. In the book, it's called Hell Hall. So that is I suppose they didn't want to scare children or just use the word hell. It may have been part of the Hays Code back in the 60s, so they don't want to necessarily use that terminology. So they changed the name in the cartoon because the film did come out in 1961, I believe. It was actually a big hit for Disney. In fact, it rescued them because apparently Sleeping Beauty bombed badly and put them into trouble. So 101 Dalmatians brought them out of it a bit because it was a big hit back then. So, and it actually held up well. So, similar story. You have a bunch of dogs, cats. They help them. They find besides their 15 puppies, they find a bunch more puppies, and they decide, okay, we're just going to bring everybody home. And you have the big adventure similar to the book where they try to get them home. They're hiding from Cruella because Cruella wants to kill all the puppies. And now one of the other differences, they cut out two other major characters. One is a cat that belongs to Cruella. And to emphasize how evil this woman was, she killed multiple litters of this cat's kittens. And this cat hates her and wants her to go away or die. Literally. I mentioned in my review in the second book that's never been adapted, The Starlight Viking, the honorary dog of this cat, whose name I can't remember, I'm not even sure it's mentioned, wants to essentially kill Cruella. But Cruella's gone off fur in the second book. She's gone on to either tin or plastic, not sure what. She's no longer interested in fur. But again, back to the film. So the other person they actually cut out is a little boy by the name of Tommy. He's a toddler, so I can kind of see why you cut it out of the live action. Not sure why they cut him out of the animation, but probably because they did this animation relatively cheaply. Still holds up though. But Tommy is the Colonel's dog, who's one of the dogs that essentially, with his co-conspirator cat by the name of Mr. Tibbs, finds the puppies, and they alert them this is where the puppies are at. So the little boy actually loans his wagon to the couple, the adult dogs, to carry some of their puppies, including their youngest, who's a runt. That is one thing that they do get right. One of the puppies does come out nearly stillborn, and they kind of rub it. Mr. Dearly brings it back to life. I don't know what they call it in the films, but in the books, the puppy's name is Cadpig. It's a little female dog. She eventually becomes obsessed with television and becomes the Prime Minister's dog in the second book. So they rescue their puppies. Similar adventures, and it looks like in the films it's there are 84 more puppies plus their 15. So it makes a different number. Nonetheless, they bring their puppies home. Now, one of the other major differences, obviously, they put a whole lot more character into the humans than they do in the book. The book is entirely from the point of view. The humans are not given names in the film. They're renamed Roger and Anita, and they move that onto the live action. They keep that. They also make Roger a musician, which is far more interesting than an extremely intelligent accountant who saves Britain from massive debt twice. Yeah, that's the explanation of why he has money in the books. He's a highly intelligent accountant. So in the films, he's a musician, and he earns a bunch of money off the song he makes, making fun of Cruella de Vil, called Dalmatian Plantation. And that's how they end up buying a farm. In the book, Mr. Dearly rescues Britain, and they're able to essentially buy Cruella de Vil's estate, Hellhall. And the other big thing that they miss out on, looks like it's a farm in the book. And I think it's a farm in the film, but they don't really go into much detail. It's kind of dilapidated in the book. But I believe they talk about molasses. That may be a live action thing. But essentially, it's an old farm. There's no molasses involved, at least not in the books. The way they get rid of Cruella is she doesn't go to prison. The cat helps them break into her home, and they destroy all the furs that they have in there. And the husband doesn't actually own them. I don't know whether they're on loan or something, but essentially he's ruined financially, and they run away to France, and he gets into raincoats in the second book, and she becomes obsessed with tin or plastic. It's never quite clear. Essentially, it's a hard material. So she gives up on, in the book, she gives up on furs. And that's how they destroy her, rather than her going to prison, which I believe is what happens in the both films, is they send her off to prison. The other similar thing is they do end up rolling in black soot and getting home that way because they're hiding from Cruella. Basically, 2 adult Dalmatians and a bunch of puppies rolling in black soot to look like Labradors. And that's how they get home through various helps. So it's not a bad adaptation. It covers the story. It's very adventurous. I recommend both. Now, let's kind of move on to the live action I've seen bits and pieces of this. Great film. I mean, Glenn Close has a fan. I mean, she hams it up as Cruella de Vil. The black and white is true to the book, oddly enough, as well as all the fur. So the black and white hair is definitely true to the books and both the film adaptations. Again, they give more character to the humans in this thing. In the live action, in fact, the dogs are just barking. So you miss out on the dog characterization. So in the live action, they sacrifice essentially the animation of the dogs for more characterization of the humans. So again, in the books, it's all dog. The humans have no characterization really at all, except for, you know, an accountant and them being nice people and their dogs loving them. That is about it. So again, the live action sticks pretty closely to the animation, except for now the dogs don't talk. You hear a bunch of barking. They keep the dog's name. You add a little bit more backstory to Anita as her fashion designer, and that's how Cruella de Vil is her boss. Again, in the animation, I do not believe there's that connection. Obviously, in the book, they barely know each other, and I have no idea why on earth Cruella is showing up at their house. I do not believe it makes any sense in the book. It's never explained in the book. It's a very simple children's story. So they keep pretty close in the live action, but again, there's a whole lot more antics. People going on. The animals are not talking, so it kind of makes it different. It looks like she falls into a vat of molasses before being arrested, being attacked by pigeons. In the live action, again, they do stick it close to they have the 84 puppies, rather than, I believe it's along with the original 15 that belong to the family. In the book, again, it's a bit different because you have 4 adult dogs involved. You have the Mrs. and Pongo, which are the original pair who had their first set of puppies. You have Perdia, who's a stray that's found by Mrs. Dearly, and she'd actually have her 15 puppies sold off by her owner. And he just abandoned her. And then her husband, and yes, that's how they refer to her. The dogs refer to themselves as husband and wife. Her husband is brought by his owners later because they recognize something on through the news, and he ends up being adopted by the Durleys. So they cut that completely out. So you have more puppies that are found. You have like 2 extra puppies that are in the films that are not in the books. So that's pretty much it. Some of the dogs' names are still similar. Lucky and Rolly are in fact names in the books. So is Patch. In fact, both Patch and Rolly have interesting backstories in the Twilight barking, where Rolly goes to France briefly. Again, look at that review. And Lucky, which I don't actually mention in the book review, is part of the group that goes to kill Cruella in the Starlight barking. See my book review, or let alone read Starlight barking. It's not connected to any of the film sequels, and there's a reason for that, because it's a very odd little book. We still recommend reading it. So essentially, end of the story, end of the book. Same ending. Roger gets money. In the films, it's because he wrote a song. In the book, it's because, again, he rescued Great Britain from debt again. Yeah, in the beginning of the books, he doesn't have to pay taxes because he did that the first time. I believe in the Starlight barking, he's not able to do it, but yeah. But still, that's kind of how they change it up. Again, in order to make it more appealing to humans, they have to make the humans more characteristic. They cut out the cat. They cut out her killing kittens. I'm guessing that would upset people because there's no actual death in either the cartoon or the live action film. So they're both great. I mean, I love the film, particularly live action. You can't beat Glenn Close. She's a fantastic. She hams it up as Cruella de Vil. The character in the animation is fantastic as well. It's good that they bring more characterization to the adults. The books are also a great read. The story pretty much stays pretty close to the same. So if you enjoy one, you're definitely going to enjoy the other. So if you're looking for great family films, both the cartoon and the live action are probably good additions. And if you're looking to read the books, another great thing to read. I'd also check out my book review because I get a little bit more into the Starlight barking, which is the second book that, again, has nothing to do with any of the sequels whatsoever. Possibly for good reason, involves the dog star and is completely dog-centric whatsoever. There's no real human involvement except for the little boy Tommy, who's brought in, who's a toddler who belongs to the Colonel, and he helps out in the books a little bit. He's not in the films at all. So that's it for this review. Check out my book review for the 101 Dalmatians, and as well as my other book reviews. If you want to like and subscribe, I have more book reviews coming. I also do a variety of other things if you want to check out my channel. Thank you.